China has built 7 islands that are, it's as if they're preparing for World War III. So that's the real threat that we are facing right now. And that's the reason I'm glad that what I'm doing is we're going to try to start to rebuild things. And that's not why I'm here today, but I thought I'd mention that since he mentioned that in his introduction. Things are going well. I mean, you guys out of advance right now. We're in the middle of a lot of MILCON construction, and one of the biggest problems that we have right now are shortfalls. The military are pilot shortages. We have undergone, it's a critical problem here because we spend all that money training pilots and then they end up with the airline. Come in, you guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good to see you. Bert, you're late.
That's right.
But you're here. No, I'm just talking about something in his introduction. He mentioned now chair of the Center on Services Committee, and that does it does help. And yesterday I was down in Lawton, and we're trying to revamp our whole artillery system because we fell behind, and now all that's going to change. But that's not the reason I'm here. I'm going to share with you something. I'm going to offend some of you, and I don't care. That's something that I observed and I'm living with right now that is very significant. There's never been a more controversial president of the United States than Trump. I mean, this guy, for some reason, he has learned how to offend people, but he is doing things that are unbelievable. And nobody knows it. They don't know it because the press hates it. With one exception on TV, you'll hear nothing but bad things about President Trump. But I can tell you, I've got to know this guy. And I'm going to tell you a story. Way back in October, I can remember as a Republican, we had 17 people running for President of the United States. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And who in here thought it was going to be Trump? I thought he should be, well, good for you. I appreciate that. You're 1 in a million. But nonetheless, I was thinking it'd be maybe 17. Well, anyway, I got a phone call. This is right after he was our Republican nominee for president. And I only met him one time in a large group, so he didn't know who I was. But he called me. This is October the 19th after that happened. He hadn't been running against Hillary yet. That was yet to come. And he said, I'd like to have you come to New York tomorrow. I'd like to talk to you. Would you do it? And I said, yeah, I'm not doing anything. So I did. And went up there, and I was one of 14 people. And I will never forget it because you go into Trump Tower, and that's a pretty massive place there. And the 14 people, where each one was supposedly an expert that carried a conservative philosophy in every area. You had healthcare people there, you had energy people there. I was there for military. And so you had 14 people around one table. Spent the whole day there. And what he was doing was, you don't think of him as someone who would sit back and listen to other people. That's exactly what he's doing. He'd gone through a campaign, and by his own admission, he didn't know what he's talking about early on. I honestly don't think during that time frame that he knew the difference between the UN and NATO. But he learned at that meeting, and that's where he kind of developed the right philosophy of what things that he really believes in. And that's how we became acquainted with him. And then to see him out there doing things that are just remarkable. Some people won't agree with this, but he has done an unbelievable job. Sure, I cringe when I hear that he's coming out with a tweet. Because I was thinking, couldn't he have someone bounce off me before he comes out? No, that's not it. That's just what he likes to do. But in his defense, let me share something. This is the first time in the history of politics I know of that we have a guy who's been willing to come out front and defeat an unfriendly media. And he's done it by coming out with his tweets. And when he does that, it's kind of interesting because right now in his work, there are now, if this is a survey that was done last week when I was in Washington, there are 10 times as many people who read his tweets than subscribe to both the Washington Times and the New York Times and the Washington Post put together. So he's able to circumvent and get his things across. Now, what has he done? And I have a reason for doing this, for bringing this up. he's done, for those of you who agree with me and those of you who don't agree with me, you have to keep several things in mind. I just, to simplify, I use three things. Number one, the economy. Right now, we have an economy that we have not had in 60 years. It's just, and people don't, most people don't understand that. We have full employment. You know, 4% is full employment. We're at 3.7. We're above 4%. We're above full employment. And this is something that he did with the cooperation. Every Democrat voted against it. Lowering the rates and doing away with a lot of the overregulation. Now, some of you remember I'd come up here and talk. I spent several years chairing the committee called the Environment Public Works Committee. That's where they came out, the EPA, with all these regulations driving people out of jobs around America. And so we went through 8 years of Obama, and the growth in the economy averaged 1.5% a year for 8 years. Right now, it's over 4%. And for every 1% increase, I know this is in the weeds, but you got to realize what's happening in this country. For every 1% increase in economic activity, or GDP, that translates into $2.9 trillion in revenue increase over a 10-year period. Now, this was not a Republican idea. This was John Kennedy who had this idea. John Kennedy, there are many people in this room as old as I am, but I actually remember when this happened. John Kennedy said, you know, we've got a great society, and we're going to have to take advantage of this. We're going to have to do something to get new revenue to pay for the new great society. There's a big liberal program. He said the best way to increase revenue is to decrease marginal rates. Now, tragically, Kennedy died 2 years after that. It was 1962 he made that decision. But nonetheless, he didn't live to see the product. And the fact that, yes, they started the Great Society program because of the huge increase in revenue. Well, along came Ronald Reagan, who did the same thing. Kennedy actually took the top rate from 91% down to 70%. Then Reagan did the same thing. He took the 70% down to 50%. And every time he did this in 1981 and 1986, the revenue increased. Now, that's exactly what's happening right now. And people who say, the Democrats and the liberals, that are saying, you know, he shouldn't have reduced these rates because that's going to how are you going to pay for all this stuff? Well, it's a fact that every time you reduce the rates, that increases economic activity and the revenues actually increase. And this has to happen right now because, you know, I mentioned we went through the 8 years of Obama, and our military is just not the military it used to be. And now we're in a rebuilding mode, and that is what's going on. So we have the economy there. No one can question what's happening with the economy. It's something that is really unprecedented in recent history. Now, the second thing that he's done is to our military. He's starting to rebuild the military, and that's what we have done. We are in a position now that when you look down the road, we'll actually start forging ahead sometime about 2 years from now. And what we call our peer competitors, China being the main one. And then the last thing is, you've all sat through this thing, suffering through this thing that happened 2 weeks ago with our Supreme Court nominee. And I just have to tell you this because I might have an advantage over you folks here because I got to know him in 2006. In 2006, he was nominated to be on the appellate court. And so that is exactly what has happened during that time frame. And he performed beautifully. So if we knew him in 06, all these things, the accusations that came, this is the first time I've ever seen we have lost the presumption of innocence in America. We've lost it. I mean, they drummed up a lady, she was a very fine lady, I'm sure. I didn't have the opportunity to meet her. But she came out with accusations with witnesses. None of the witnesses came through. And so, according to the liberals in this country, that guy was guilty before as opposed to the presumption of innocence. So we sat through that thing. It became a reality. The guy is a good guy. I know him personally. And so when you stop and think in this country, you may disagree with a Republican or a Democrat who's president of the United States. You might, and you might not like the laws that are passed. You might not like the regulations that are passed. But what you have to realize is that Those can be changed with the next administration. What cannot be changed are the judges. Those are lifetime appointments. And so what has happened, we've got Gorsuch, and we have two new judges in the United States Supreme Court. They are constitutionalists, they are conservative, they are going to follow what the Constitution says, and this is a huge change. But that's not all that's happened in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, and I bet most of you are not aware of this because the people just don't report it. In the last 2 years, we've increased the number of appellate judges to be appointed by the President and then confirmed by the United States Senate. 29 new, 3 of them were last week. So the numbers right up to 29 appellate judges, conservative constitutionalist judges. Now that has not happened in a 2-year period since 1891. But does anyone know about it? No, they don't know. And so this is the problem. We have good things happening in America. And by the way, I should add a 4th thing. So we had 3 things. One, the economy. One, talked about the judgeships, and 3, the military. But the 4th thing is we are reasserting America as the leader of the free world. And we lost it. Whether you like it or not, we lost that when during the Obama administration, remember Syria? Said if you continue to do that, you cross the red line, we're going to come after you. They crossed the red line and nothing happened. But then this president got in and he said, if you cross the red line, we're going to bomb you off the face of this earth. They crossed it and they bombed him off the face of the earth. You hadn't heard anything from Syria since then. So that's a reasserting of America's leadership in the free world. I really believe this is the case. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this today is not just to tap the horn of a guy who's doing a great job, even though such a large number of people hate him. Because we have a governor's race coming up in Oklahoma.
Thank you, dear.
I've been all over the state. Yesterday, I was all over the southern part of the state, right down to the Texas border, and ending up in Weatherford and back here. And today, this is the first stop we made to let people know that we have a very significant race in state Democrats. And that what was the characteristic of Trump was that he didn't know anything about politics. He'd never run for office. He was a huge financial success. And we have a guy named Kevin Stitt, who is the same thing. Never run for office, never been involved in politics, and has been very, very successful. It's a matter of you want somebody in there who really does understand what the private sector is all about, and we have that opportunity. Now, I say that because he's running against a guy, and I'm not going to go into this, but this is stuff, just an article from one of the newspapers on Drew Evans. I came home about several months ago. This is kind of funny because Kay and I have been married for 59 years. She was a Democrat when we got married. And she changed 59 years ago. So she'd been a Republican for 59 years. And yet, they still have her down on the books as a Democrat. And so she said, wait, for some reason I keep getting all this stuff from Edmondson. And so she showed it to me. And that was when they had Fred Harris come in and making a speech. I didn't remember Fred Harris. See, look, there's the problem that we have. We have maybe 10% of the people remember this. Remember Tommy D. Remember Drew Evanson, Ed Evanson. Remember Dewey Bartlett was governor, governor, and he was running for the United States Senate. And running against Ed Evanson. It was a long time ago. They had this thing that Ed's like Fred, like Ted. So you don't remember that. But nonetheless, they've been leaders in the Democrat Party. And without getting into the dishonest things in the background of Drew Evanson, I will leave a handout here and read it. This isn't me saying it. This is a fact that he did things he should not have done ethically at that time. And if you're concerned about what kind of governor he's going to be, just keep in mind, if I can find it here, one of the things that he is really plugged into is the tax increases. Okay, he's already said in this campaign, this is Drew Evanson. He said he wants to have a 6% income tax. He wants to have an increase in the oil and gas tax, that being the gross production tax. He wants to have an end of capital gains exemption that farmers need to have. By the way, the farmers are really concerned about this because the Farm Bureau and the rest of them, when he came out with this thing that said that he wanted to treat manure as hazardous material, talk to your farmer friends and see what you do. You're a better bird. You talk to them and see what they think about that. And also that he wants to expand the sales tax increase. So I'm here to tell you that I'm all around the state, not doing anything for me, but really concerned that we would be going backwards where we thought we left many years ago, and if we elect Drew Evanson to the United States, to the governor. So that's what we have. I'm willing to defend myself, my position, and I'll be glad to respond to any questions you guys have. Okay?
Senator.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for being here, and congratulations on your new chairmanship. On embargoes, do you have a feel for China and when that could come to a head?
Yeah, see, that's the one thing that has been a serious problem. You know, we're a big bean country, and we are concerned about that. This is his position. We've never been on a level playing field with China. Democrats and Republicans alike, they've never been able to do it. He's going to take the hard line. He said he was going to do this, and it's going to be short-lived. Right now, China is really hurting. We're going to see the end of this in a short period of time. If you don't do it, it's going to continue in 10 years from now, or 5 years from next year. We're going to be facing the same thing that we're facing now. He is just as concerned about that. He's concerned about the auto industry. He's concerned about the farms. Those are the two major areas that he is concerned about. So I think it's going to be short-lived, and I think in the final analysis, when it's over, I think we'll be well served.
But when do you think we're going to get a hold of the national debt, which is going to crush us if we don't get a hold
Well,
of it?
see, this is the other thing I mentioned, that you get rid of the debt by having in this case, if you have the increase in revenue, you do the two things that the have to should be done. You know, I often say there's an old document around nobody reads anymore. It's called the Constitution. It says what we're supposed to be doing in Washington, not me, what I'm supposed to be doing. Number one, defending America, and number two is infrastructure, called post roads, I think. And so we need to get to a position where we can do that. First, you have to do the military. Then you have, if you have the revenue coming in, that's going to be how you bring the debt down. And the revenue, as I said, for each 1% increase, and this is historically right, nobody disagrees with this. For each 1% increase in economic activity, that brings in new revenues of $2.9 trillion.
But you guys always spend all the revenue.
Well, that's been the problem, yeah.
What are you going to get that under control?
And the Republicans are the ones that were spending. I mean, even under the Reagan administration, you increased income, but you also increased expenditures. So you never have been able to get
Okay,
together.
this is what has to be right. You're exactly right in terms of we have to do something about the expenditures, and that's what we are committed to do. I am. You didn't see me doing it, did you?
Well, you're our rhino. You're our rhino. You know, we like you, but you're our rhino. You've been in there for 30 years now, plus, and maybe it's time to get some younger blood in there to make some changes.
Maybe you're right.
I don't know.
That's right.
Okay, we're frustrated. We're frustrated with this. That's the reason why we got a Republican running for governor that's never had an office ever.
Yeah, I know. That's my. You're making my speech.
That's exactly why he's a debtor's pit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I have to tell you that yes, sir. Since you're the one who knew he was going to win.
Yeah. Well, I knew he was going to win at least the nomination.
Yeah.
But anyway, Senator McConnell has indicated that in December they're going to have the battle over the border wall funding. That's got to happen. We can't keep kicking this issue down the road and saying now's not the time. Now's not the time. Right now we're seeing another caravan, this time from Honduras, last time it was from Nicaragua, making its way through Mexico, blatantly.
Exactly.
With disregarding Mexico. I see what they're doing with these caravans, and if we don't get serious about border security and we don't build a wall, then I truly think we're going to be in a crisis like Europe, where they're coming over in the hundreds of thousands.
You are right. You're right. And I'm going to tell you something you don't know, and you don't know either, or you've been making some of the comments you made. That I spent 20 years in the real world as a builder and developer. Most of it was down in South Texas on the border. Are you aware of that?
Anyway, I guess I'm offended when you tell me that I don't know something.
Well, did you know that?
I guess I am. I'm sorry. But
okay, I think you came here offended to start with. That's fine.
No, I've been a supporter of you ever since you've been in office. You're my rhino. You vote as I vote. That's the only reason I support
Well,
you.
let me share this
I'm
with
just
you.
telling you, we're
Because
frustrated.
there is never any reason for you to be aware that I have that experience on the border as a builder and developer. And so that's the reason that I've been down there 4 times, because the president doesn't have anybody else in the Senate who's ever been down there. And well, those from Texas and Arizona. But down there, you know, you're right. When we had Obama as president, he was encouraging people. We know this, you know this. He actually had things going down to Guatemala and Nicaragua and areas down there. Come on, we welcome you to come through Mexico. So they had a system set up that in order for them to have to get into, what's the word that I always forget? To show the damage that's being done to them, the hardship. Anyway, in order to get that standing, they have to come into this country and they have to appear before a court to show that they are actually, I thought somebody had that word. Anyway, that's what the problem was. Once they get across the border, they disappear. And they don't show up to the court dates. And so now we have a situation where they're here. So I went down, and here's that. I introduced it on behalf of the president, but it hasn't passed because it's not an easy thing to do. And that is, if you're going to try to get into the hardship area where you can come into this country, then you're going to have to do it while you're still in Mexico. And you can do that with going to an American consulate or American embassy. And that's what we're trying to get through right now. Because once they get over the border, they're gone. I do apologize. All right? And the reason is I'm as frustrated as you are. Yeah. Well, anyway, I bring this up because, you know, a lot of people talk about the damage that's being done by people around there too long. I had my career before this. I mean, that's what I was out in the real world doing what our candidate for governor is doing. And so you're exactly right. That's why we've got to shut down the borders in some way. And it's not going to be a wall going all the way across. People try to say that, the cost of that. That's not true at all. We have other ways of doing some areas that, and I know that well. So we do need it. Every other country has it. Why should we not?
Sure. Another issue I see, sorry, I'll make this my last question, is once we beat the Democrats again, that's twice that the American people have voted for the president's agenda. Whether it's the president himself firing Mueller, Rosenstein, or the Congress just cutting off the funds, this Russia hoax crap, this has got to end. This is tearing this country apart. It's driving the left insane to the point that these people think that Donald Trump is going to be impeached any day now, and they're getting more and more violent. It's got to end. I don't believe any of this Russia. I mean,
well, no, and
whether or not they interfered, look, the man won fair and square. He won this state. We have to end this.
Well, there's nothing fair in Washington. And that's the reason we started off with this thing that he kind of discovered, a way of circumventing the media and going straight to the people. And that's what he has done. He's done it successfully, and that's the reason we have the prosperity we have nationwide right now. And it couldn't have happened another way. I mean, I knew the 16 people he beat out in the primary. I knew them all, and I knew them by reputation. I thought one of those was going to actually end up being. I was not able to figure out that it was going to be this guy. But nonetheless, it looked like right now there's something providential about it. I'm glad he's there. And I've got 20 kids and grandkids that I'm more concerned about than I am my own generation. Yes, sir.
Senator, what's the outlook on infrastructure? The city's doing a big project in the region that helps Vance and Oklahoma. What's going on there?
Well, I think, first of all, let's take it right here. You know, what you are doing here at Woodring in assisting the Vance is something that is happening other places in this country. It's not just happening here. But infrastructure is a thing that I mentioned. Those are the two things we're supposed to be doing. And so he does have but he hasn't started yet. One thing about the president, he starts on something and he finishes it, and he goes to something else. And he hasn't really gotten it started yet. Now, for those of you who may think that, since I'm chairing the Senate Armed Services Committee, that I've forgotten about the background and all the infrastructure. I still chair that committee. It's a subcommittee on infrastructure and transportation. I still chair that. And we are working with the White House now to get something put together. And it's going to be, you know, overwhelming. He's waiting for some of the revenue to pick up that comes as a result of the policies that he's had economically. And you're going to see it starting to really bloom in January. So I'll be back in January to talk about this, and it's something that's very important. Right now, in my mind, the military is first, because we have the direct threats. You know, China never has had a military outside of its city limits, outside of China, until this happened in the Djibouti, northern Africa. Right now, 5 miles away from our Marines that are stationed down there, they've built a huge plant, the first one outside of China territory. Now they're down in Tanzania, and not just in one continent. This is going on. So the threats are there. We want to be able to face the threats. We want to be able to make sure that we have artillery that can outgun the enemy, and that's what we're in the middle of doing. Transportation is right on the river. All right, you guys?
I'll say one thing. Senator, I want you to know we really appreciate your support over the years on Vance Air Force Base and military construction, airspace protection. We've had, with your support, over $200 million in MILCON over the last couple of decades, and helps us strengthen Vance and protect our mission. You mentioned you were in southern Oklahoma, and if you visited other bases, I'm sure you're concerned about the Hinton Wind Farm issue. And what I'm asking about is they've, you know, despite all the efforts to protect airspace at the federal level, and there was a state bill that was passed this past year, we have had a company, evidently they weren't aware of the new regulations. They've erected a couple of wind towers that are in the training line for Shepherd.
Here's the problem. This happened before we recognized that was going to be a problem. And right now, we now have DOD having to pass, but it's too late for that. I mean, look out there, they're already out. Now what we did is, you will know that it looked like we're going to have a problem in terms of the ducks and geese out here. We're able to make some changes there in order to keep that out of the path of our planes that are flying. So it hasn't been, you know, the threat is out there. When you look around, you see nothing but the wind farms around. That snuck up on us. It is a problem, but it's one that we're responding to by now saying that the Department of Defense is going to be involved in all the wind farms and locations of those. How it affects our training space. One thing we have in Oklahoma, other states don't have. We have a lot of land, a lot of training areas. We have a lot of open. We need to keep it that way. We have now drones occurring on the scene. There are some states who say we don't want any type of drone activity in our state of Nebraska or whatever the state is. We do. We know that it's the airspace is going to be to keep us in the position we're in right now in training people. It's keep in mind how many. Right now, our training schedule. I don't know if there's anyone here from Vance or not. But okay, then you know that the increased numbers that we're going to have for fiscal year 18, 19, and 20. We're increasing about 35% the number of pilots that we're training.
We've already changed the syllabus for the T6 to reduce the number of training hours significantly. They've also increased the use of T6s to go into normal civilian non-tower control airfields. They've also started to streamline the use of their instructor pilots so that there's more available active duty military pilots to do flight training. They had what they call an RSU. A small example where 2 instructors watched over the pattern in Vance, and now they're thinking about using the tower traditionally, and that'll free up. So they're looking at every little detail they can to make it more efficient, and they're really starting to think. I've been there now 19 years. I'm ex-Navy, so I have a little bias, but they are starting to really think outside the box to make sure that things get done in an efficient way.
Well, yeah, I know that's true, and I know that you also are fully aware that when you talked, I've been a pilot for over 60 years, so I know a little bit about this. And the reason that we went down and we're so short pilots is not just the airlines out there competing with us. It's the fact that during the Obama 8 years, they were not able to get their flying time. They're averaging something like 8 hours instead of 24 hours. And these kids, it's not bonuses that's going to correct the thing. They want to fly hours. Now we're getting back to that. And our numbers of graduates that you're going to have out there, as you well know, is dramatically increasing each fiscal year from now on, starting with 2018. Okay, you guys, I don't want to, over labor you here, and I do apologize for the level of concern that I have right now for what's happening in the state of Oklahoma, what's happening in the nation. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about the plane that Boeing is building that's going to replace the T-38? Do you have any?
Well, yeah, well, Boeing just got that contract,
right?
So I don't know all that much about it, but TX is going to be there. It's
single engine,
right? Yeah. And so it'll be. I remember the last time we went through before the T6 came along. In fact, that wasn't my choice to go to at that time. In fact, we didn't want to use that. Didn't want a turbo prop. So this is going to be in a German. I just can't tell you what it's going to be because they haven't designed it.
Well, I hear that they might be replacing the T6 with this Boeing plane that's coming up.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yeah, they are. That's what they're doing at the present time. But again, Boeing just got the contract, and so we don't know what it's going to look like. It'll be a good deal.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Another thing you get in your dance, with United Way, Enid here in Northwest Oklahoma. And last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about the charitable giving for an additional incentive for a tax relief for them, that Americans who contribute to charitable organizations. Is that something that has still been talked about?
Yeah, the administration has talked a lot about that. We want to take people out of the charity business. And we see this coming, when there's always an effort to try to tax something that's not moving or save taxes. And so his concern, he's talked about that. He's talked about that. He's concerned about that. Maintaining people's opportunity to be charitable. All right, you guys, I appreciate it. I'm not really in a big hurry, but I'm going to stay here and visit with you individually as long as you want to. If there's anything else, yes.
I wanted to thank you for being here. My ex-husband is an Army colonel. I appreciate what you're doing in the Army community. More importantly, I think from a female standpoint, I was horrified by what the woman did with the slander and defamation with no evidence. And personally, as someone who worries about that being a risk to all men, I'm curious what the Senate is doing to enforce the First Amendment guidelines and protections against those violations. Within the freedom of expression, we should not be able to slander or defame people as was done to Justice Kavanaugh. So what is the Senate doing to follow up?
Well, the first thing they did was we're back on the Kavanaugh thing. The first thing they did was to restore the presumption of innocence in America. And by a party without the only one who voted the other way was Joe Manchin, the only Democrat. And I have to say this, and I say it to Joe Manchin himself. The only reason he did that is because Democrats are disciplined, Republicans are. And it's because he is so threatened in his re-election in West Virginia. The president is now enjoying something like a 90% popularity. So he had no choice, he had to do that. Other than that, it was all right down party lines. And so I would just say the presumption of innocence is back in the life of the
I hope it stays that way.
I think
for all of our society.
Yeah. Okay, you guys. Anyway, I appreciate very much you coming out. And again, my mission today is really a concern that I have for the state of Oklahoma. I would encourage you, so I don't have to get into it. Get the stuff that's here. What do you have? You got over there? Okay. It's required reading, so make sure. Okay.